curious how you're thinking about this eulogy specifically in the moment and all the tensions that you just brought out.
I didn't even want to talk. I was so mad.
It's been 10 years since a whirlwind day in American history featuring two major Supreme Court victories for healthcare and marriage equality ended with Barack Obama singing Amazing Grace at a historically black church in Charleston, South Carolina. In hindsight, this was a uniquely American day, featuring the soaring highs and the terrible lows of a country still becoming a more perfect union. 2015 was a wild year. 10 years later, I sat down with the 44th president to talk about that day. In my interview with President Barack Obama, I asked him to reflect on that time while keeping an eye on our own. In my opinion, this interview couldn't have come at a better time. As America navigates the chaotic times that we are living in right now, I think it's important that we look back at how we navigated chaos in the past. We talked about that time, what he's been up to, lessons for today, and how democracy only works if you work it. So without further ado, here's my interview with the 44th President of the United States of America, Barack Obama. During your second term, there's this whirlwind 24-hour period, June 25th through June 26, 2015. What do you remember from that time?
When I go back to that day 10 years ago, I think what pulls it all together is that no one person did any of that.
Walk us through that moment.
This is toward the tail end of my presidency. Across the board, we're seeing progress. A lot of the work that we had done earlier in my first term, when we did have control of Congress, is starting to bear fruit. You're starting to see people sign up for health care, and millions of people finally have access that they didn't have before. The economy is starting to work better, and there's job growth and opportunity. You're seeing across the board high school graduation rates and college enrollment rates going up. But you still have these clouds hanging over us, and one of the big clouds was the fact that the Supreme Court had taken a case that, to my mind, it never should have taken.
The Affordable Care Act was saved from a devastating blow today.
Well, it shouldn't have been there in the first place, but thank you. But I was happy about it because it removed the cloud and it made clear that Obamacare was here to stay. The other big event that happens is the Supreme Court rules that same-sex marriage is protected by the Constitution.
History is written. The Supreme Court guarantees marriage for all.
Now, that happened because of a whole series of individual acts of courage by individual citizens, starting with, gay and lesbian couples coming out of the closet, being willing to suffer being ostracized and discriminated against and harassed and bullied, and in some cases physically assaulted. What seems like this thunderbolt coming from the Supreme Court is actually this accumulation, this culmination of all these individual citizens doing what they think is right. But this is happening against the backdrop of racial tensions. At that point, Ferguson had already happened. We had seen Eric Gardner and what had happened to him. There had been protests around those issues. You then see this disturbed young man who's steeped in racist ideology committing this horrific act in a black church.
Shooting in Charleston, South Carolina. 9 people killed when a gunman opened fire at a Bible study.
I'm curious how you're thinking about this eulogy specifically in the moment and all the tensions that you just brought out.
I didn't even want to talk. I was so mad. Part of the reason I think I ended up having anything to say at that moment was when I heard some of the victims' families forgive the shooter.
I would never talk to her ever again. I would never be able to hold her again. But I forgive you.
And they were walking the walk, not just talking the talk when they forgave him. And I thought, all right, let's see if maybe this is a way America can hear me at this moment.
This whole week I've been reflecting on this idea of grace. As a nation, out of this terrible tragedy, God has visited grace upon us. For he has allowed us to see where we've been blind.
When I go back to that day 10 years ago, what I think binds it together.
He's given us the chance where we've been lost to find our best selves.
All these different strands.
We may not have earned it, this grace.
Case upholding health care, a case declaring same-sex marriage part of our constitutional protections.
He's once more given us grace.
A day of mourning and sadness, but also celebration of who we could be.
For too long, we've been blind to the way past injustices continue to shape the present.
And our ability to overcome the worst impulses in ourselves.
Amazing grace. Amazing grace, how sweet.
I think what pulls it all together is that no one person did any of that. It was just a bunch of people figuring out how I can make something better. And if I can, why not? And if I can, that means other people can, so let me try to find some other folks who want to do this with me. At its best, this is how democracy works. And sometimes it doesn't work the way it's supposed to, and rightfully it can be frustrating for us when we see that, and we can get mad about it. But when it works, it's magic.
Okay, I think that's a good place to call it. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to like this video and subscribe. It was a very real honor to sit down with the 44th president of the United States. So thank you to President Barack Obama and his team. I approached this project as less of your typical reporting interview and more of an interview that one might conduct for a documentary, leaning really heavily into his memory and experience and sense of time, but also kind of pulling those things to the present. And I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. I'll be dropping more from this interview very soon, so make sure you are subscribed to be the first to know. I'll also be sharing a little bit about my process and even my reflections on the experience overall over on my Substack, completely for free. So be sure to sign up over there as well. The link is below. Listen, I feel like we're here because you're here. And so as always, I am grateful that you are here, my friends. Until next time, peace.